How do you detox dopamine the way ancient samurai did? Gently, effectively, yet powerful enough to rebuild your entire mind. The modern brain has been hacked, not by an enemy with a sword, but by countless cheap stimuli slipping into every minute of your life. You wake up and get pulled straight into an unconscious spiral. The phone is in your hand before you even take your first real breath of the day. Your brain keeps whispering, find something easier, find something faster, find something more fun. And then the whole day passes in a series of actions you didn't truly choose. You feel weaker, out of control, scattered, unfocused, but you don't know why. Everything that used to excite you now feels dull. Hard work irritates you. The books you meant to read are forgotten. The goals you set are postponed. You know you are capable of much more, yet somehow you keep losing to yourself. This is not your fault. This is simply how the human brain behaves when it's controlled by cheap dopamine. The modern world is an invisible enemy, firing sugar-coated arrows at you. You become scattered, overstimulated, unable to focus, your mind drifting like a Ronin who has lost his master, wandering through thousands of choices with no real path. And this is the complete opposite of the samurai's spirit. Samurai did not chase what was easy. They trained themselves to prefer what was difficult. They saw challenge as the path of mastery. They cultivated Mizu no Kokoro, a mind as calm as water, unmoved by noise. But us? One tiny notification can steal 30 minutes of our life. One short video can kill our motivation for the entire day. One small habit can pull us far away from what truly matters. If you feel tired, unfocused, or directionless, this isn't weakness. It's a sign your brain has been misprogrammed. But just like the way of the sword, what has been dulled can be sharpened again. What has drifted off course can be corrected. The brain can be retrained, exactly like a samurai practicing the same strike every day until it becomes pure instinct. The problem isn't that you lack motivation, it's that your brain has been occupied. Before we continue, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop your thoughts about this topic in the comments.
1. Dopamine and motivation, where modern neuroscience meets Japanese martial philosophy.
Dopamine is the neurochemical behind the moment of intention, the instant where thought becomes action, where an idea becomes the beginning of a battle. But the modern world has turned this mechanism into humanity's greatest weakness. Social media, short-form videos, constant notifications, they are designed like enemies using light, fast attacks, not strong enough to defeat you instantly, but strong enough to scatter your focus, shake your clarity, and slowly erode your ability to enter deep concentration. They hit your dopamine system over and over, making you crave quick, effortless stimulation instead of the long-term challenges that require discipline. When dopamine is overstimulated, the brain enters down-regulation. What used to excite you now feels bland. What used to drive you now feels distant. What used to make you proud now feels like a burden. This isn't weakness. It's a biological consequence of being bombarded with cheap dopamine, fast, easy, and instantly rewarding. You're living in an era where a single swipe gives you dopamine rewards far quicker and sweeter than real-life effort ever could. This is why your brain no longer finds the difficult things rewarding, things that demand the same patience and focus as a samurai training with his sword. Musashi once hid away in the caves of Reigen-do, training his mind in absolute silence to reach immovable mind. He understood that no one wins when their thoughts are scattered. Likewise, when your dopamine system is overloaded, your mind loses direction, unable to recognize what is truly worth pursuing. In the end, people become Ronin, warriors without a master, wandering through their own lives, reacting to hundreds of tiny stimuli with no purpose guiding them. The Ronin of the past lost their master because of history. The Ronin of today lose their master because their brain is scattered.
2. Neuroplasticity. The brain can be retrained like a samurai trains his sword. Samurai didn't become formidable by luck. They became terrifying because they repeated the right movements thousands of times. Miyamoto Musashi, victorious in over 60 lethal duels, practiced his strikes alone for hours in silence until the sword was no longer a movement, but an extension of his soul. That is neuroplasticity. Repetition shapes who you become. Every action you take today is training a stroke of the sword inside your brain. Whether you are conscious or not, the brain is always carving new pathways, turning behaviors into habits. When you choose discipline, even a few minutes of reading, a short workout, a single difficult task, you sharpen the sword of discipline, precise, strong, and unwavering. When you procrastinate, scroll mindlessly, or seek easy comfort, you sharpen the sword of delay, dull, weak, without force. So when you feel unable to focus, unable to act, or unable to stay disciplined, it's not because you are weak. It is because your brain has been trained in the opposite direction for too long. Years of indulgence, cheap dopamine, and instant comfort have carved the wrong neural strokes, deeply etched exactly according to the rules of neuroplasticity. Samurai understood this long before neuroscience existed. Sasaki Kojiro, Musashi's legendary rival, mastered the swallow cut, a technique so perfect he could slice a bird mid-flight. He wasn't born with that skill. He practiced it thousands, tens of thousands of times, until it carved itself into his very nervous system. In the same way, your brain can change. Your emotions, habits, discipline, focus, willpower, and vitality can all be rebuilt. Neuroplasticity proves that you are not trapped in your current version. You are not fixed. You are not born lacking. You are not limited. You have simply been training the wrong sword and haven't learned how to retrain it. The brain never stops adapting. Whether you're 20, 30, or 50, your brain is reshaping itself daily based on every action you repeat and every habit you choose. And just like sword training, transformation doesn't come from a single session. It comes from consistent repetition. Every time you wake up on time, you retrain your brain. Every time you focus for 15 minutes, you retrain your brain. Every time you refuse the easy path, you retrain your brain. Every time you choose action over delay, you rebuild your entire nervous system. Your brain is always changing. The question is whether it's changing in the direction you choose or the direction the world pushes you. If you choose to retrain it, little by little, day after day, like a samurai refining his blade, you will create a stronger version of yourself, one who can face difficulty without fear, focus deeply, act decisively, and never again let bad habits dictate your life.
3. Dopamine detox in the Japanese sense. Dopamine detox, in the Japanese sense, is not merely a self-discipline method. It's a journey back to a purified state of mind, the same way samurai forged their willpower during long periods of seclusion. The essence of detox is not self-punishment. It is simply removing cheap stimuli that erode your focus and inner strength. The Japanese view this as withdrawing in order to sharpen inner power, much like Musashi, who repeatedly retreated into the mountains to disconnect from the world and regain clarity before major battles. When you temporarily eliminate easy dopamine, you're doing exactly what samurai practiced centuries ago, keeping your mind free from meaningless noise. Today, these stimuli hide everywhere: social media, games, short-form entertainment, endless fragmented information. To a samurai's eyes, social media would be the chaotic noise of a battlefield, constantly pulling you away from your purpose. Games and short-form entertainment are illusions that deceive the warrior, making you feel like you're enjoying yourself while draining your inner strength. Only when you reduce overstimulation does the brain regain sharpness, like a mirror wiped clean after years of dust. The Japanese say, "To see your path clearly, you must first calm the water." Dopamine detox creates that stillness, giving your brain the space to regain its natural sensitivity. This is how you reclaim deep focus, reconnect with your long-term goals, and rediscover joy in meaningful work. In martial philosophy, the ultimate samurai state is Fudoshin, the unmoving mind, not emotionless, but so steady that nothing outside has the power to control you. Dopamine detox brings you closer to this state. No more panic when you're away from your phone. No more being dragged by every notification. No more agitation when you're not consuming stimulation. Your mind becomes grounded, like a samurai standing in a storm, yet unmoved. Even Musashi, undefeated in over 60 duels, understood that the greatest victory is the victory over oneself. He lived alone in the mountains, cut off all distractions, trained, meditated, and wrote the Book of Five Rings. That was his version of dopamine detox, turning away from easy stimulation to sharpen inner power. And it was in that solitude that he reached the wisdom now revered by warriors around the world. When you practice dopamine detox today, you're not just limiting screen time. You are rebuilding yourself, opening the door to clarity, discipline, depth, and inner strength. The qualities that made the samurai unbreakable.
4. The transition phase, the dark night before dawn. Every journey of rebuilding the mind must pass through a difficult threshold, the dark night before dawn. This is the stage most people mistake for failure, when in reality, it's the very first sign that transformation has begun. The early days of a dopamine detox are anything but pleasant. Restlessness, irritability, anxiety, lack of focus, loss of interest. Your body reacts violently, as if you've cut off a familiar source of life. But beneath that resistance lies the internal mechanism showing that your brain is beginning to recalibrate. The ancient samurai understood this stage deeply. They called it the trial of the spirit, the moment when both body and mind rebel against rigorous training. When a samurai meditated beneath an icy waterfall, the pounding water shocked the skin and numbed the body. Breath turned shaky, heart raced, the mind begged to quit. Yet that resistance wasn't the enemy. It was proof that the spirit was entering transformation. Takeda Shingen, one of Japan's most renowned warlords, required young swordsmen to meditate under waterfalls every morning to forge immovable spirit. Everyone faced the same moment of panic. Stop! Get out! But those who held on past the first few minutes would slip into a profound stillness, where the mind fused with the challenge. That is the perfect metaphor for dopamine detox. The discomfort at the beginning is the doorway to inner awakening. Most people quit just moments before the brain is about to recover. This is the greatest tragedy. A little restlessness, quit. A little boredom, quit. A little lack of focus, quit. Yet at that very lowest point, the brain is doing its strongest recovery work. After years of overstimulation, it's finally recalibrating receptor sensitivity, and that process always feels uncomfortable, just like breaking any addiction. Even Musashi faced this internal collapse during his early days of isolation in the cave of Raigondo. In the Book of Five Rings, he described moments of mental chaos, doubting himself, wrestling with his own shadow. But those darkest days paved the way for his enlightenment, helping him achieve the unshakable mind that made him unbeatable. Instability is not a sign of weakness. It's proof you are advancing. Just as in sword training, muscle pain isn't weakness. It's a signal that you've exceeded your previous limits. Every trembling hand, every tight muscle, every broken breath is the body learning something new. The brain is no different. When it's no longer fed cheap stimulation, it screams, resists, and tries to drag you back into old habits. But behind that chaos is neurological rebalancing. The darker the night, the closer the dawn. This transition phase won't last forever. It's just a few challenging days, but it's the gateway to a stronger version of yourself. If you endure the initial discomfort, the brain will enter a new stable state. Deeper focus, clearer intention, renewed calm, and more sustainable energy.
5. The detox process. The spirit of mental Kaizen. Kaizen is not a sudden overhaul. It's the art of consistent, incremental steps that quietly remove inner chaos and rebuild unwavering discipline. Step 1. Identify your cheapest dopamine source, your weakest vulnerability. Everyone has a weak point that hijacks their attention. Social media, short-form video, gaming, endless news. Cheap dopamine drains your energy while giving nothing in return. This is the first step of mental Kaizen. Recognize the exact thing that weakens your mind a little every day. Before entering battle, samurai always identified their own weaknesses. They didn't just train their sword, they examined their inner state to understand where they were most easily shaken. Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings, "The victor is the one who sees the flaws within himself before seeking the flaws in others." You must do the same. Look directly at the dopamine habit controlling you and make it the first target of your detox. Step 2. Choose your timeline. Change needs rhythm. Kaizen never rushes transformation. Your detox timeline must be realistic, challenging enough to break old patterns, but safe enough to sustain. 3 days, warm-up. Your brain begins to feel the absence of stimulation. The discomfort is good, it means the system is reacting. It's like a samurai stabilizing his breath before training. 7 days, rebalancing. After a week, cravings decrease. You feel more still, more focused. This mirrors the stage where a samurai enters the natural rhythm of daily practice. 14 days, breakthrough. The critical milestone, similar to advanced kendo or kenjutsu training, where warriors push past their limits. After 14 days, the brain restructures how it responds to temptation. You no longer need intense stimulation to feel engaged. You've built mental endurance. Step 3, don't just remove, replace with meaningful actions. Detox is not about creating emptiness. It's about replacing the weak with the strong. The Japanese call this shinpu. Remove the unnecessary, nourish the essential. Slow dopamine practices rooted in Japanese discipline will restore the brain's natural rhythm. Reading, especially teachings like Musashi's, reconnects you with deeper awareness. Mindful cooking, in the spirit of washoku, trains presence in every motion. Walking without headphones, practicing Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, cleanses the mind. Training in silence, like kenjutsu practice, develops focus through breath and stillness. Handwriting journals, a habit of many Japanese masters, strengthens reflection and discipline. These activate slow dopamine, the kind that comes from effort, depth, and meaning. Step 4. The brain begins to rebuild motivation. The spirit of Gambaru awakens. After sustained Kaizen-style detox, the brain learns to motivate itself again. Without fast dopamine, it rewires to prefer patience, consistency, and long-term reward. This is the essence of Gambaru, doing your best even when the path is difficult.
Samurai forged this spirit through countless cuts, long meditations, and nights of relentless training. When you detox, you cultivate the same strength, the ability to resist impulse in pursuit of something higher. Mental Kaizen doesn't change you in a day, but it changes you every day. You move from eliminating cheap dopamine to choosing a rhythm, replacing it with meaningful action, to the point where your brain generates lasting motivation on its own. 6. Pleasure versus satisfaction through the samurai lens. In an age flooded with instant distractions, the greatest task isn't chasing pleasure, it's restoring your ability to feel true fulfillment from your own inner strength. This was the heart of the samurai way, especially for Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated in over 60 duels. He once taught, "The greatest victory is not over your enemy, but over the low desires within yourself." Pleasure is instant gratification, bright, loud, and hollow. It's like a temporary, empty victory for a young samurai, flashy, noisy, but lacking depth or growth. A swordsman who wins by luck or a careless mistake from his opponent may earn applause, but inside he knows it's not true glory. Pleasure gives you a quick high, followed by emptiness. Satisfaction, however, is the quiet completeness of creating real value, overcoming a real challenge, developing real discipline. It is the samurai's highest triumph, victory over oneself. When Musashi spent years in the cave of Raigan-do, crafting his spirit and writing the Book of Five Rings, that wasn't pleasure. It was profound satisfaction, born from discipline, clarity, and self-mastery. Pleasure comes fast. Satisfaction comes slow. But it is the slow path that builds inner strength, strength that modern life has nearly erased. Today, society manufactures endless pleasure, short videos, notifications, cheap dopamine everywhere. People consume dozens of small joys daily, yet don't feel happier. We drown in stimulation, but starve for meaning. A samurai living only for pleasure, drinking, flattery, indulgence, would never reach mastery. And neither will we. No one grows from cheap dopamine. No one becomes strong from what comes instantly. That's why detox matters. Not to restrict you, but to shift you from pleasure to satisfaction, from chasing cheap highs to building lasting fulfillment. When you stop relying on instant gratification, the brain resets. You begin to feel real joy from meaningful actions, finishing important work, training, reading, building skills, becoming someone stronger. That is satisfaction, the kind no algorithm can give you. Only action and discipline can. A true samurai never lets desire control him. He trains until the mind becomes the sharpest blade. Your detox is a similar forging, a reclaiming of your inner command. Pleasure is something anyone can get. Satisfaction is reserved for those brave enough to grow. 7. The science of delayed gratification and the spirit of Bushido. A human's greatest strength doesn't come from muscle. It comes from the ability to delay gratification. Neuroscience and Bushido both praise this as the highest form of willpower. In an age overflowing with instant temptations, the ones who can wait are the ones who possess true inner power. Delayed gratification is the art of training your brain to grow stronger every single day, just like the samurai who trained their minds before they ever trained their swords. Modern research shows that when you delay a reward, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's strategic command center, activates intensely. This region governs planning, emotional control, long-term decision-making, and higher thinking. In Bushido, this corresponds to Qi, wisdom, the first and most important of the 7 virtues of a true samurai. When this part of the brain is active, you see beyond short-term pleasure and stay focused on your greater mission. Real samurai like Yamamoto Tsunetomo, author of Hagakure, emphasized, "A swordsman must not let emotions dictate his actions." This aligns perfectly with modern neuroscience. When you chase instant gratification, the primal brain, the amygdala, and limbic system fires aggressively. This is the center of fear, desire, and impulse. If a samurai let his primal brain take over, his technique would fall apart. His strikes would lose sharpness. His mind would shake. Just like modern people drowning in fast dopamine, short videos, constant notifications, emotional snacking, all of it erodes self-control, the same way a warrior loses composure in battle. Instant gratification weakens the mind. Delayed gratification awakens willpower. When you choose discipline over easy pleasure, a powerful chain reaction begins inside your brain. The prefrontal cortex builds stronger neural connections. Patience increases. Focus sharpens. Calmness under stress rises significantly. This is how the brain builds inner strength. Slowly, steadily, just like the samurai honing their sword technique. No magic leaps, no sudden transformation, only consistent repetition. Each day, outdoing who you were yesterday. In Bushido, this practice is called jisei, self-control. A samurai cannot be unbreakable unless he wins the inner battle first. And every time you delay gratification, you are practicing that same spirit, choosing the greater mission over the smaller impulse, choosing the future over the moment.
8. After detox, the state of Zanshin, continuous awareness. Once you pass through dopamine detox, you enter a state the samurai called Zanshin, prolonged awareness, a sharpened consciousness that infuses every action, breath, and decision. This isn't just a reward, it's evidence that your mind has recalibrated from the chaos that modern society imposed on it. In samurai culture, Zanshin is the moment after the sword has already struck, yet the warrior remains fully present, alert, and grounded. Miyamoto Musashi described Zanshin as the mind that does not leave the battle even when the battle has ended. It is mastery over self, an unshakable presence untouched by emotional turbulence or small distractions. After detox, the first unmistakable change is your ability to concentrate longer. Before, you may have lasted minutes before feeling restless, reaching for your phone, seeking stimulation. But when the brain is no longer burned by cheap dopamine, your focus becomes deep, steady, and efficient. You can work for hours with ease, the foundation of every great achievement. Your mind also becomes clearer, as if a fog is finally lifted. Most people don't realize they've been living in cognitive haze until they step out of it. A samurai in Zanshin can hear a shift in the wind and detect the smallest movement from an opponent. Likewise, you begin sensing your true priorities, your real needs, and the distractions you must remove. You see life with a clarity you didn't know you had lost. Decision-making becomes faster, not rushed, but decisive. When your mind is bombarded by microstimulation, the brain falls into decision fatigue, hesitating even on small tasks. But after detox, your mental landscape becomes lean, sharp, like a well-polished blade. You know what to do, what to avoid, and you stop letting constantly shifting emotions steer you. Another profound shift: your energy stabilizes. No more extreme highs followed by crashes. No more dependence on caffeine, sugar, or screens to just feel alive. Your energy flows from internal balance, like a samurai's steady breath before battle, calm, unhurried, but unstoppable. And the most powerful transformation: you begin to enjoy doing hard things. This is the greatest divide between someone controlled by dopamine and someone who has entered Zanshin. Hard work used to feel like a burden. Now it feels meaningful, even beautiful. Like the samurai who found elegance in hardship,
training in cold rain, striking 1,000 cuts a day, meditating for hours without moving. They didn't endure difficulty, they transcended through it. Post-detox isn't just recovery, it's your evolution. A calmer, sharper, more decisive, more intentional version of yourself. A version that cannot be pushed around by cheap stimulation. A version capable of building real, lasting achievements.
9. Not one and done, but a system like Kaizen. Lasting transformation doesn't come from one dramatic moment. It comes from a system repeated daily. The Japanese call this Kaizen, continuous incremental improvement. The same principle applies to mastering dopamine. There is no do it once and you're cured. The brain always drifts toward the path of least resistance, just like water flowing downhill. The brain is wired to want easy rewards. This primal instinct evolved for survival. Conserve energy, seek fast pleasure, avoid long-term effort. Without a support system, your discipline will collapse in days. That's why Kaizen is crucial. Real change doesn't rely on bursts of willpower. It relies on smartly designed environments. The Japanese excel at building such environments. They know that environment shapes behavior, and the right environment makes discipline feel natural. In the spirit of Kaizen, you must design your environment around two principles: reduce friction for good habits, increase friction for bad habits. This helps the brain choose the right thing effortlessly. Samurai lived by the same logic. In ancient dojos, every object, rule, and layout was structured to reinforce focus and discipline. Simple but powerful examples. Keep your phone out of reach. It seems tiny, but the impact is massive. Without your phone within arm's reach, the mind stops craving constant notification checks. This mirrors the samurai rule of not bringing a sword into the meditation room to prevent the mind from drifting toward combat. A distraction-free environment guides your attention naturally. Prepare your workout gear the night before. When shoes, clothes, and your training plan are ready, you spend zero willpower deciding whether to work out. This is pure Kaizen, reducing friction so good habits flow smoothly. Samurai did the same thing. They checked their sword daily, not for display, but to stay aligned with their chosen path. Make healthy food easy to access. Place fruit, nuts, or clean meals where you can see them. Hide junk food out of sight. You're building a winner's environment. The brain chooses whatever is easier, and you design what easy means. Samurai lived this way too. Simple meals, structured eating, no indulgence. A simple environment strengthens the spirit. Kaizen, at its core, you don't need to win today. You simply must avoid losing over the long run. When the environment is designed correctly, you're not fighting yourself all the time. Temptations lose power. The right actions become automatic. Historically, samurai like Ito Itosai, founder of the Ito-Ru school, were known not for sudden breakthroughs, but for systems of daily discipline. He didn't rely on motivation. He didn't rely on willpower spikes. He built rituals, structure, and environments that kept him on the right path every day.
10. Act now, the first step of the warrior's journey. In today's world of endless stimulation, your greatest enemy is not stress or failure. It's the cheap dopamine draining your focus and inner strength day after day. Identifying your personal dopamine enemy, social media, games, sugar, short videos, or anything that hijacks your self-control, is the first step toward reclaiming your mind. The next step, commit to 7 days of complete removal. Not to punish yourself, but to give your nervous system a chance to reset. When samurai entered periods of intense training, they withdrew from the noisy world, removed all distractions, lived simply, and dedicated themselves fully to the way of the sword. You too must create your own inner dojo, a space where destructive habits have no authority. During these 7 days, observe yourself the way samurai documented their training. When restlessness appears, this means your brain is addicted to fast stimulation. Musashi wrote, "The body resists change, but the mind must remain commander." Restlessness isn't weakness, it's proof you're breaking dopamine's grip. When impatience hits, this is the point where most people quit, but samurai didn't win with bursts of power, they won by staying steady at the hardest moment. Every time you resist an impulse, you're sharpening your inner weapon. When emotions begin to settle, this is adaptation. The brain stops fighting. Just like a swordsman feeling his breath and blade merge, you begin to regain control of yourself. When joy from discipline appears, this moment is sacred. No more struggle, no more internal war, just pride, clarity, and strength. That's why samurai recorded their progress, to witness their own evolution. This journey is not just about rebuilding your brain, it's about rebuilding you. From someone pulled around by dopamine, you become someone who chooses what is right for your future. From a mind easily swayed by temptation, you become a warrior who commands his will and actions. Musashi said it best, "The greatest victory is victory over yourself." This journey isn't a quick challenge. It's the beginning of a stronger, deeper, more resilient version of you. Start today. A single action can open the door to an entirely different life.